This is a key-by-key description of the features on the Rpgps58 keyboard. We're going to go key by key and explain to you exactly what each key does. Top left key is an escape key. This acts just like the escape key on your computer's keyboard. For example, if you had selected a crop key with the crop key down here, and you decided you don't want to select that crop, you would hit escape. Again, it just works just like the regular escape key on your computer keyboard. The orange keys shown here as well as down here are specific to Adobe's Bridge program. If you press this key right here, while having selected a file, it's going to open that image in Photoshop. If you hold the Opt2 key down and press this key, it's going to open the image in Adobe Camera Raw. This key here is going to increase your star rating and decrease your star rating. This key here is going to tag your photos as being red or blue, and then this key over here is a reject key. We also have a reject key down at the bottom where your thumb is going to naturally rest when you use the keyboard. And then we've got a stack and unstack key. Again, your orange keys are specific to Bridge. They will work best or only work when you're in Bridge. Moving along, the next key, the primary function while you're in Photoshop, is going to pull up your image size dialog box. The alternate function with the Opt2 key is going to bring up your canvas size. Your next functionality is going to open up the free transform dialog box where you have the little dots on either side of your image so you can stretch it or stretch a selection. And then you've got zoom in and zoom out. The next image is a little clever bit of programming. This is going to always take you to the original background layer of a file. So if you have a file with 20 or 30 layers and you quickly want to jump back to the original background layer, hit this button. It's going to take you there. The alternate functionality of this button is also to flatten the image. So if you hit this button with the Opt2 button pressed, you're going to go ahead and flatten it. We've got a new layer as the primary functionality here and a duplicate layer as the alternate functionality. For navigating your layers quickly without a mouse, we've got layer up and layer down, so you can move between the layers very quickly, going up and down. We have select all and select none, which does exactly what you would expect. This is a clever little bit of programming here. We've got, it basically toggles you between Bridge and Photoshop. So if you're in Photoshop and you press this button, it's going to take you to Bridge. If you're in Bridge and you press this button, it's going to take you to Photoshop. We have a duplicate button. This works in both Photoshop and in Bridge. It's going to basically create a copy or a duplicate of the currently selected file or files. The next button is a toggle swatch. It's going to change your swatch selections, basically invert them from background to foreground and foreground to background. A liquify button is going to open up your liquify tool, which a lot of photographers use these days. And of course we have undo and redo. The blue keys on the left-hand side simulate your function keys on your computer. So this is F1, F2, F3, F4, all the way up to F8. And with the Opt2 key, if you, for example, if you hit this first key, it's F1. If you hit it with the Opt2 key, you're going to get Control F1. This is so that you can program your favorite actions into the RPG key. You can control 16 of your favorite actions in Photoshop only. This is not this functionality does not work in Bridge. It is specific to Photoshop. Moving on, we have a reset, which is also called revert in Photoshop. We have enter, which is just like an enter key. We have the next and last feature, which if you're curious about this, watch the RPG launcher video. But this is in Bridge going to take you from one photo to the next, just like your arrow keys would. And in Photoshop, it's going to automate the saving, closing, and opening of your next image, either alphabetically or numerically. This feature is tremendously helpful for photographers who don't typically use Bridge all that much, but like to stay right in Photoshop. We have the purple keys here, which are your primary image editing tools for global changes like exposure and recovery, blacks. These purple keys were modeled after Adobe Camera Raw, the features available in Adobe Camera Raw. If you create an adjustment layer with this button here, you're going to be duplicating, in CS3 you're going to be duplicating your original file, and then any of these buttons that you press, those changes will be made to that duplicate file. In CS4, you can either duplicate this layer with hitting this button, or you can hit it with the Opt2 key and it will create all of the adjustment layers that a photographer would typically create, so that if you then press exposure, it's going to go to your exposure adjustment layer and allow you to make an appropriate change. We have auto tone and auto contrast down here. Real quickly going through the purple keys: tint, temperature, brightness, recovery, blacks, contrast, exposure, saturation, sharpness, vibrance. Down here we have your hand tool, which is basically your space bar, and you've got an Alt key. If you're in Photoshop, it's going to work like an Option key for Mac or Alt for PC, and if you're in Bridge, they works like a reject key. On the right hand side, we have your localize adjustment. So you've got dodge and burn, clone and heal, crop. You've got your marquee tool and your lasso tool. You've got sharpen and blur. You've got your brush tool and your eraser tool. And then you've got your brush size and your brush hardness tool. This concludes the description of the RPG PS keyboard layout.